Hello and welcome back to our series of programs with Carol Cameron and Alicia Carver out here in London. So the next program is going to be conversational between Carol and Alicia because I just did not want to leave this room without discussing some more of her outstanding, otherworldly wooden dolls. So they're going to go through the case and pick, I said to pick a top 5. It's really hard to do that, but we're going to dive right in to the wooden dolls. So let's go. I'm giving my microphone to Alicia Carver and we are going to get in here with Carol Cameron and your wooden dolls. So Carol, I know wooden dolls are one of your absolute favorites.
Yes, indeed. There's so much history. The English wooden dolls, they start at the end of the 1600s and they go through to the sort of early 1800s. It's quite the rise and fall of the English wooden doll. And towards the end, of course, they were competing with the huge numbers of woodens that were coming in from the continent. And I often talk about stage 1, 2, 3, 4. Stage 1 were the early ones with the painted eyes. We can pick out one of those. Stage 2 were the ones with the lovely glass eyes. And then stage 3 is when it becomes a bit more mass production because the middle classes start to want to demand dolls the same way that the aristocracy were happening. And then as the Gros Natals come in to compete, they start to decline and you go back to little painted dolls that actually are very rare because they get chucked away. So it's a sort of rise and fall. So you pick out whatever you want. Painted eyes.
Okay.
What about this lady here?
This lady here, let's talk about this lady here. She's an early painted eye English wooden with a swivel neck. And I just absolutely love her personality.
I think it's Florence who coined the phrase Clapham type.
Clapham type,
Because
absolutely.
we have a Lord and Lady Clapham that, if you're lucky, you get to see in the Victoria and Albert Museum.
That's right.
They're not on display at the moment. But they were sold in the 1970s and they were found in if I remember rightly, in a drawer in a manor house along with 10 other dolls. And they were all sold. And Marion Bodmer bid and bought all 12, but she wasn't allowed to take Lord and Lady Clapham. There was an outcry, and
the museum ended up. They did
a crowdfunding equivalent,
right?
And they managed to buy them. So, but there was clearly, and this is what happens with English woodens. When you look at enough of them, you can tell family resemblances.
Yes.
So if this wasn't carved by the same maker as Lord and Lady Clapham, it was somebody who was studying at the same school or whatever. She's very large. Clapham's are about 21, 22 inches from memory. She's 29. And she's got these lovely kid gloves on. They would have been wet.
Yep.
The gloves would have been made damp and then pushed onto the wooden fingers.
Yep.
And then dried. And they've never been off.
Right.
She's got the cloth, the normal cloth upper arms for these early type. And as I say, the lovely painted eyes with the very distinctive eyelashes, the sort of ivory eyebrows, I mean the ivory skin with the big rouge, and it's just like they would have worn that rouge at the time.
Yes.
That was deemed to be beautiful. And some of these dolls have beauty spots as well.
Yes, they do.
Because was that to cover smallpox?
Yes, it was.
Like this. So very much this was deemed to be like beautiful.
Yes.
The idea of beauty.
Does she have the wooden upper legs?
Yes, she does. Where are we? And like many of these dolls, she's got the lower ones are painted black to simulate stockings, and then with these large ones she actually has articulated ankles.
Oh, that is so cool.
The smaller ones don't have that.
I did not know that.
But these bigger ones do. And she's fully jointed, but her body's not that. Doll was meant to be dressed.
Yes.
It was not meant to be shown undressed.
I have to ask about the dentures.
Yes.
Well, the dentures, this was just my rather British sense of humour. I spotted this at a recent doll fair and I thought, that looks like a set of doll dentures. Now, which doll do I have? And as you can see, she's obviously got a sense of humour, that doll,
yes.
so I have to, yeah. And this big chair, this is not an original chair, this is a copy, but this is very much the style of chair Lord and Lady Clapham are displayed in, wooden with the straw, what do you call that, cane?
Cane.
And she's on a cane seat as well, yeah. Okay, so we've looked at a 29-inch version of the stage 1 with the painted eyes. This is at the other extreme in terms of sizes. 2 tiny little ones that I think from memory they're about 4.25 inches. They're a boy and a girl. We know that because the boy is on the right. He's got a tricorn hat under his left arm, and the girl is on the left. And they weren't in these cases. The belief is that this case was made many years later for them, but I'm so glad somebody did this because it's protected them.
It is protecting them.
It's just an absolute wonder. They are survivors.
Yes.
I don't believe they would have survived had they been left out the case.
I agree.
Because they're so tall, they're so small and so fragile. So, I've kept them in that case, and Absolutely fabulous.
I noticed you have a large collection of these smaller painted eye dolls.
Yes, these are the stage 4. So this is at the other end, the sort of late 1700s into the 1800s, maybe even up to 1830. I just find these are like folk art dolls.
Yes,
today.
they are. They are.
Really
They have a very folk art look to them.
folk arty
Yes.
look. And they're fun to dress as well. This guy came to me naked and I just found bits and pieces for him. Some of them came in sort of older clothes. These two I think are all original round the corner here, and they came with a provenance to do with a sea captain, etc., etc. So some of them, they've been kept together, and they come with provenance. They're very
folksy looking.
Very folksy looking.
Now, their arms, are they made of leather? I can't.
They can be made of a number of things.
Okay.
This is what I would call lollipop sticks. I don't know what you guys call them,
Yep.
but they're like
Yes,
a
they're
popsicle,
lollipop
lollipop
sticks,
sticks. Yes. Sometimes they can be rolled cloth. So if we go along the other end, you can see. Well, in fact, those are miniature versions of the bigger ones.
Of the bigger ones.
But if you look along this end, this is rolled cloth. And in fact, one of these, I can't remember, has rolled cloth legs as well. And the other one has, lollipop legs. So it was whatever.
It was whatever.
Yes. The head was the thing that had any work done to it. The other thing is that some of them are just all wood, and others, even later on, they didn't even bother to carve the features. What they did was they put a mask on. So it's like a plaster mask on top. And you can tell because sometimes the mask and the head have started to separate. So sometimes it's all wood.
Yeah, and then you see like a mask face.
A mask face. You can see the split. In fact, one of these, I think this one here, you can see here.
Where she has the mask, where the line and...
Where the line is, yes.
Now, what do you think the mask was made out of? Was it made out of...
I'm assuming some sort of, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
like
know.
a cardboard or...
I don't know.
Not sure.
Good question.
Now tell us about this particular doll right here, because...
So she's a bit of a funny one because I think she is probably around...
A little earlier.
Around, by the way she's clothed, you'd think she was quite early. And she's got the painted eyes, but she doesn't look like any of the other English painted eyes. So I think she's more sort of the middle of the 1700s. Right. And again, this body is not a lot of time was spent, more time was spent on the clothing. In fact, the thing to do is to look at the back. If I take her out, because it's one of the examples where dolls are on display. The front of the dress is very often, I mean, that has kept its colour. It has. This has kept its colour, but round the front, it's deteriorated. The other thing to do with these dolls is to look at the way they're dressed, and this style of dress, or indeed the idea of using strips of clothing, because cloth was very expensive. Exactly. So they saved all the bits and pieces of clothing.
And it's silk too, isn't it?
Yes, and they made doll clothes. That's what Queen Victoria's dolls did too.
All little bits.
All bits. Now, a disproportionate number of these dolls are dressed as nuns. If you come around here, this is this stage 1 with the wooden eyes. That's a nun. This is a stage 4 dressed as a nun, and there's another painted eye nun down there. And
look at that! Look at this one.
There's enough provenance. Let me bring her out. She's got a very sweet face.
She does. I love her face. Absolutely love her face.
Now, the belief is that during the time we're talking about, the sort of end of the 1600s into the 1700s, there was the Protestant Catholic troubles were on. It got to the stage that the Catholic families were worried about the children's safety, so a number of them sent their daughters to France to get educated in convents, and they would send their daughter with a doll dressed in courtly costume, and they would arrive at the convent would redress the doll in the outfit of the nunnery, and then send the doll back as a message to say your daughter has arrived safely. So there's enough stories of that around that the belief that there's some truth in that. Yes. Because as I say, there's a disproportionate number of these dolls, these early dolls dressed as nuns.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then these 3 here, these I believe are from the same maker. They've got a family resemblance. They're quite quirky. They're different to other ones.
These are probably my 3 favorite dolls in your collection at this moment. Now, that could change in an hour. But right now, if you were to say to me, you can take 3 dolls home, those would be the ones that would come home with me. Because I just love her. I love her smile. I love her happy demeanor. I think she's got a very quirky, happy little face. And the one all the way to the right is not Happy Camper, but she has a lot of attitude, and she's over her happy sister. kind of like the wicked stepsister in a way to the family, but you could 100% see that this was probably the same painter that did them. And then the one in the middle,
She's the little sister.
she's the little sister.
Yeah.
She's caught in between the trouble. She can't deal with them.
And then you've got the stage 2, which are the glass-eyed. This is probably one of the best examples because she's all wood. She doesn't have the cloth upper arms. She's an early stage 2.
Okay.
So she's got these wooden upper arms, and this is where that doll could be undressed and it would look absolutely wonderful. She's got the carved, like the ones we pointed out before. She's got the carved toes, absolutely fully jointed. She's absolutely stunning.
She's absolutely stunning. She has she's in amazing condition too.
Yes.
As are these 3 down here. They're in amazing condition.
This is actually the bigger sister, because this one is all wood as well. She is all wood, and she is a lethal weapon, as I call it, because she's so heavy.
She is heavy.
She's very heavy. All wood, fully jointed.
And her arms are carved.
There we go, look at those.
Her arms are carved a little differently than the early dolls. I see
Look at
what you're
that,
saying.
lovely.
Yep, and painted in the skin tone too.
Yep. Yes, as I say, this doll would not be embarrassed to be in her birthday suit.
And again, if you turn her around, you can see the brightness of what was once the fabric, which is more of a dark gray and rich salmon color. And then you turn it to the front, and you can see where there's been fading. So I see what you're saying. Lovely. And she has a little stomacher in here. Yep. She's got all the elements. And also a slight bosom.
Yep. Yep. As I say, that's not a child's toy.
No, definitely not a child's toy.
Yep.
So what do you think was the purpose of a doll that large in those days?
Well, fashion doll.
Right?
Yeah, I mean these would be, I think they wouldn't be made in great number, maybe made to order. And then again, that's the biggie. Then you get down to this size, which is tiny, tiny, tiny.
Does she have glass eyes? I can't see.
She
it
has
from
glass
here.
eyes.
Wow.
Yeah, and she's actually smaller than this because her feet touch them. She's actually a baby,
Right.
because her dress is right open at the back. And she came from, it was a Quaker family that were selling, it was 2 brothers and none of their kids wanted any of the family heirlooms, whatever. So they did an auction. This was the only doll in the auction. I contacted the auctioneer and he wrote to the brothers. The brothers had done the family tree. They were able to give me the family tree back to even the 1600s.
Oh, how wonderful.
The belief is this doll, it started life being, it was 5 sisters in the 1730s, 1740s.
So they think there were 5 dolls.
And it passed down, no, this was...
Oh, it
the
went
doll-
through 5 sisters.
It went through 5 sisters, and then got passed down the female line.
Wow.
So I think I know who's looked after that doll for posterity. And it came with the lovely sort of cloak in the back.
I noticed, Carol, from your program that I saw you do a long time ago, the earlier stage 1 have big spoon hands.
Yes.
And then they get smaller.
That's good, yes. So the belief is that some of these very early dolls were made by furniture makers who, I mean, I use it in the off season, they would make dolls. But one of the reasons for that is the early dolls are made with all different sorts of woods, and furniture makers would make, have all different sorts of woods.
Right.
So it was whatever was to hand. And of course, you imagine they made bed knobs so they could make dolls and things. But the thing about the big hands is that the belief is that they started out life as spoons, because they make wooden spoons, which of course had this curvature.
Right.
And then what you could do is simply
Carve a notch in there and then start
So they've
shaping the
got
fingers.
Big hands, and then as time goes on and you start to get professional doll makers, the curvature starts to go down, and you actually end up with very straight. If you look at these, for example, the fingers are almost completely straight.
They are.
And they're more in keeping size-wise with the size of the doll.
And this is a good example of the spoon hands that you're talking about.
Yes,
right down here,
there.
this particular early doll, who is amazingly charming.
Yeah, that's a child version.
She's got just precious.
Very large head for her body.
She
does.
does.
She's got the lovely spoon hands.
She does.
Yes, great example. This is a stage 2 again, but this is the later stage 2. They've got these lovely glass eyes, absolutely gorgeous, but they've got the cloth upper arms. So I think the makers found making everything of wood too expensive, too time consuming.
Makes sense.
So these dolls, when I got them, were not in original costumes, and you'll note that there's many more lady dolls than there are male dolls. So I was very happy with these clothes came up in an auction, and I acquired them. I crossed my fingers and acquired them, and I think they're not
You were
original,
fortunate.
but they look good. They look
And
good.
the shoes.
Now the shoes, I always try and pick up shoes wherever I go,
Yeah, yeah,
sort of
yeah.
thing, in the hope that
They're
they'll
perfect.
work. Yes. Yeah.
Well, I love his face. It's very different.
Yes. Oh, each of them has just a slight.
Yeah.
Because
Some have longer.
styles.
Absolutely. Some have these slightly longer faces, flatter. Some have shorter face. Like he has a very short face and very protruding and rounded. And I for some reason, I'm more attracted, I think, to the protruding faces.
Yeah.
Me personally, I just find them to be a little bit more charming.
But as time goes on, the carving gets slightly less. So, you know, these are very well defined carved ears.
Yes.
It starts to get less well defined.
Yep.
And then in the sort of what I call more mass produced.
Right.
Very often the mass produced are slightly bigger dolls.
Yes.
The eyes get closer and closer
Yes,
together.
they
In fact,
do.
they have a slightly cross-eyed look
Yep.
to them sometimes.
Yep.
The head is sort of round, but it's not got the shape to it. And then eventually you end up with these.
Would you say he's an earlier version?
No, she's early stage 2 with the all
Right.
wood, and then these two are later with the cloth upper arm.
Okay. Oh,
Stage
they
two.
have the
stage 2.
Got
yeah.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wow.
So I hope you enjoyed this. This has been such a remarkable experience, and I just want to thank Carol Cameron again. We're going to thank her in every video that we're showing, just for opening up her home and her life to share us some of these, just a sliver of her incredible collection. So thank you so much. And the fun conversation with Alicia Carver. So our next video is actually going to be Carol's Carver Shrine. So we're going to go to the Carver Shrine and take a little tour. So come on over.